All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guys. Just kidding. It's just you and I today, like Carl Weathers says, just the two of us. We're hanging out together. It is a solo show for me today. This is only the second time this has ever happened here at the Spoken Podcast. So this is very new for me. It's something that I very much welcome, though. It's an exciting time. Trevor and the kiddos have themselves a nice little day today. And I'm just here in my lonesome because all I have in my life is sports, apparently. But you know what? You guys are going to fill that void for me today, and I'm going to try to do the same for you because this is a very slow time of the year. We know this in the sports world. There's not a lot going on. But you know what? We find things to talk about. We find reasons to get together. That is why we're a community. That's why we're here to do what we do each and every week. 224 episodes. Very much happy about that. Very much proud of that. Very much excited about that. And I'm very much excited about the growth that we're seeing here at the Spoken. Much praise, much respect, and much thanks to our guys at Starcade Media and everybody that's been supporting us at the network. But even more so, guys, the fact that you guys have been joining in and joining the conversation with us has been huge. You might be asking yourself, how the hell do I do that? It's very simple. If you're watching this live, or if you're watching this afterwards, go to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, hit the notification button, so every time we do go live, you do see us out there, and we're going and we're doing our show. More times than not, we'll have Trevor and I talking back and forth, but more importantly than anything else, we want you to interact with us and chat with us and let us know what you guys want to talk about. Very much excited to hear from you guys. So hit us up on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, like I said, notification, and then get in the comment bar. I will not stop you guys from talking about whatever it is you want to talk about in the world of sports. You guys can chime in as much as you like. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to keep you from doing what you guys want to do, which is to talk, and that is what we're here to do. That's literally why it's called The Spoken, because we're the ones that are supposed to be here speaking about sports, whatever the topic is, whatever the question is, whatever the take is. I want you guys to bring it to me, and we'll do that. So hopefully today you guys will want to chime in, man, because this is something that I definitely want to do with you guys today, is be very interactive and hear your guys' takes, hear your guys' questions, hear your guys' concerns, because like I said, it's just the two of us. So let's hang out. Let's have ourselves a fun-filled show. I don't know how long this bad boy is going to go, but we're going to find out, and we're going to find out together, and I'm really excited about it. So I tweeted out a couple of things that definitely got the attention and the emotions going from a lot of people this week. And today I want to break down and discuss both of those tweets and why they mean and why I mean, and I fully stand by whatever I said in those tweets. And if you're not following me on Twitter, you see at the bottom of the screen, it's at Lance the Spoken. You guys can see everything I tweet throughout the week. And a lot of times I will tweet things and then bring it up in the show. And today, that is definitely what we're going to be doing. Today I want to talk about a couple of things, like I said, that I do stand by. I'm not a hot takes guy. I'm not somebody that tries to intentionally say things to get people upset. I guess I just have that natural ability and knack to do so. When I give you guys my genuine and honest reaction or feedback or just general opinion on sports matters. It's just something that I've been able to conjure up for whatever reason, and but these are things I genuinely do believe. This is something I've always stood by since we decided to start doing this show, that I'm always going to give you guys my 100% truth. It might sound hot, it might sound hot takey, it might be spicy, you might vehemently just disagree with it, but you know you're going to get the truth from me. And these two takes, these two tweets that I had this week are things that I very much believe, and I want to start with the first one. The first tweet I want to address is the one that directly acknowledged where I believe Andy Reid is headed and where I believe Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce already are in the pantheon of all-time greats at their positions in their respective fields. The first part of the tweet was, quote, Andy Reid will go down as the best head coach in NFL history, end quote. Then the second part of it and the third part of it says Patrick Mahomes is already the greatest quarterback in NFL history. Travis Kelce is already the best tight end in NFL history. The Chiefs went from cursed to crowned. Chiefs fans went from saddened to spoiled. We deserve this, end quote. Now, let me first address the last few lines, of that tweet. The Chiefs went from cursed to crowned. Chiefs fans went from saddened to spoiled. We deserve this. I realize that when you have the best player in the sport on your team, when you have the best team in the NFL for a long stretch of time, your team is going to have new fans. Fans that haven't been through what us lifelong fans have been through with this team, and that's the heartbreak of never being good enough to contend for Super Bowls and instead always finding themselves losing postseason games in the most traumatic and historic ways. Y'all know what I'm talking about, you OG fans out there. I'm honestly not one that gets upset, though, with bandwagon fans, because I know they were bound to join once we knew that Mahomes was special. Plus, I'm more of a secure fan in what I know this team has meant to me and how much they've put me through over the last 3 decades. So when I say that this team went from cursed to crowned and that us lifelong fans have been saddened or spoiled, I mean that literally, because any of you new fans or people that aren't Chiefs fans at all are watching or listening to this right now have to understand that is exactly how it's gone for our lifetimes. I honestly never thought as a Chiefs fan that I would see the day that the Chiefs would even play in a Super Bowl, let alone go to 3 and win 2 within a 4-year stretch. Now that the Chiefs are the most dominant team in the NFL over the last 5 seasons, and it looks like that isn't going to change anytime soon, yeah, it's beginning to feel like we're spoiled given how little we had to celebrate before 2018. Which is what brings me to the prediction I made at the top of the tweet. Andy Reid will go down as the greatest head coach in NFL history. This is the one that got the folks heated. This is what got you guys triggered and upset. Especially Patriots fans. And look, I get it. It's widely assumed that Bill Belichick is and will be the greatest coach in NFL history, and I get why. The man is only 18 wins away from passing Don Shula for the most total wins all time. He has the most playoff appearances of all time with 19, most playoff wins ever with 31, the most Super Bowl appearances with 9, and the most Super Bowl titles of all time with 6. Belichick has the resume to make that case. If you ignored his career without Tom Brady and the several cheating scandals attached to his legacy with Tom Brady. Obviously, having Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes as their quarterbacks is going to help Belichick and Reid further their legacies by winning Super Bowls. Belichick and Reid have a combined 8 Super Bowl titles as NFL head coaches, and all 8 were won with Brady and Mahomes at the helm. But what folks seem to forget or overlook are the glaring differences between these two head coaches when they didn't have their all-time great head coach or great quarterbacks leading the way. Let's do a little comparison real quick. Here are their head-to-head comparisons. So, Bill Belichick had 329 total victories to this point, 31 total playoff wins, 19 playoff appearances, 13 conference championship appearances, 9 Super Bowl appearances to 6 Super Bowl wins. Andy Reid has 269 total wins, 22 playoff wins, 18 playoff appearances, 10 conference championship appearances, 4 Super Bowl appearances, and 2 Super Bowl wins. But here are their head-to-head comparisons without Brady and Mahomes. So, 10 seasons Belichick has coached without Tom Brady. He's 79 and 88. That's a 47 win percentage. Only 2 playoff appearances, 0 conference championship appearances, and 7 seasons with a below 500 record. Andy Reid has 19 seasons without Patrick Mahomes, won 183 games to 120 losses and 1 tie. That's a 60 win percentage. He went to the playoffs 13 times, 5 conference championship appearances, and only 3 seasons with a below 500 record. So as it stands, Belichick has 60 more wins, 9 more playoff wins, 1 more playoff appearance, 3 more conference championship appearances, 5 more Super Bowl appearances, and of course, 4 more Super Bowl wins than Andy Reid. Belichick is 71 years old, and his best chance of winning Super Bowls, let alone making the playoffs, are well behind him. Not only does he no longer have Brady, the AFC and the NFL as a whole has passed him and the Patriots by, and I do not expect him to be around for more than a couple more seasons at best. Whereas Andy Reid, who is 65 years old, not young, but much younger than Belichick, especially in coaching years, has not only the best quarterback in the world, who's only 27 years old, He has one of the best GMs and rosters in the NFL littered with young, cheap players for the next 2 to 3 seasons. He's also a more suitable coach to today's NFL, being an offensive-minded head coach, and I think many would agree that at worst, Andy will go down as the greatest offensive mind in NFL history this side of Bill Walsh. But I'm looking at the pacing of Andy's career with Mahomes going nowhere anytime soon, and has me of the firm belief that he will be the greatest coach of all time when it's all said and done. I've been saying for 3 years now that I expect Andy Reid to coach till at least 2025, which is when his current contract is going to be up. Him and Brett Veach both, but I'm expecting those contracts to be extended, but we'll get to that in a second. So that's 3 more seasons to today. 3 more years, 2023, 2024, 2025. That's where my initial expectation was when 2018, 2019 took place. Because, once we saw Mahomes take over, we saw him become special. The question automatically became, okay, how long does Andy Reid hold on to this kid? Because, my God, this is the greatest quarterback he's ever had. This is the greatest quarterback we've ever seen. He'd be an idiot to walk away quickly. So that's why I said at least till 2025. Since Mahomes took over in 2018, the Chiefs averaged 13 wins per season. They've made the playoffs all 5 seasons and have won at least 1 playoff game in each of those seasons, along with 5 conference championship appearances, 3 Super Bowl appearances, and 2 Super Bowl wins. So if you kept those averages going for just another 3 seasons, Andy Reid would then have 308 wins, total wins, 25 postseason wins, 21 postseason appearances, 13 conference championship appearances, 6 Super Bowl appearances, and 3 Super Bowl wins. That's already a case for the greatest coach ever. You can legitimately make that case after 2025. If he maintains these averages the Chiefs have been having with the regular season and postseason, you can make the case that's the greatest coach who's ever lived. But see, I don't think now that Andy will step away in 2025. Because of the fact that in 2025, Patrick Mahomes will just be 30 years old. And I have a hard time believing that Andy Reid, with the success they would have for 5 to 8 years, with Patrick Mahomes really just getting going at only 30 years old, it's hard for me to imagine that Andy Reid's going to step aside and not continue his coaching career with something so special in Patrick Mahomes. Which is why I think he's coaching for at least another 5 seasons. And since I think we all believe that the Chiefs aren't going anywhere, I don't think it's crazy to think or assume that they could at least replicate what they did in their first 5 seasons together, seeing Andy won't become a worse coach, and Patrick is only getting better by just now beginning to enter his prime seasons. So if you doubled up their first 5 seasons for the next 5 seasons, Andy would end up with 334 total wins, which is the most all-time, 33 playoff wins, most all-time, 23 playoff appearances, most all-time, 15 conference championship appearances, most all-time, 7 Super Bowl appearances, second all-time, and 4 Super Bowl wins, second all-time. That's the greatest coach in NFL history. That is the greatest coach any of us have ever seen. And that's just duplicating what the Chiefs have done. Who's to say that these next 5 seasons aren't even better than what the Chiefs have done in the previous 5? Because, like I said, as great as Patrick Mahomes was out the gate, we saw how raw his game still very much was. We saw that he admitted that he didn't know some of the defensive schemes in the league, and he had to learn, he had to adjust. Hell, in his 4th season in the league, you saw him struggle more than he ever did in his previous 3 because the league started to adjust to him. And he had to start taking what the defenses were giving him and start to throw underneath the defense. And he became a better football player because of that. Losing Tyreek Hill made him a better football player because of that. I think having to adjust in 2021 before Tyreek ever was gone is what helped him be prepared for losing Tyreek Hill in 2022. I think he was a lot more prepared for that because he had a 10-11 game stretch where he had to figure out his shit before 2022 came about. And now the league is sitting here wondering how they're going to adjust to Patrick Mahomes. He's 27 years old. He's just now entering his prime years. Most great quarterbacks usually get to their prime, their best seasons, at 28 to about 33. So we're looking at another 5 or 6 all-time great seasons at least from Patrick Mahomes. Andy Reid isn't young, but Andy Reid isn't old enough to step away just yet. And I think that we're looking at another, I would say 5 seasons at worst from Andy Reid because of what he knows he has at his quarterback position alone, and knowing what Brett Veach can do with building young, cheap talent around Patrick Mahomes on both sides of the ball. To me, guys, considering everything that I just mentioned, it is without question that Andy Reid is the better coach than Belichick because he's done more when both had less at quarterback. This is the same reason I told you guys for years why LeBron is a better basketball player than MJ, because unlike MJ, LeBron carried mediocre rosters and coaches to the finals and had more consistent success, whereas MJ couldn't beat Larry Bird in a single playoff game and couldn't get out of the first round of the playoffs without Pippen, and sure as hell didn't get to the finals until he had Pippen and Phil. Belichick not only never won a Super Bowl without Brady, he not only never got to a Super Bowl without Brady, he didn't have a winning record without Brady. Meanwhile, Andy went to 5 conference championship games and a Super Bowl with a 60 win percentage before he ever had Patrick Mahomes. The reason Belichick has 6 rings and Andy has 2 is simply due to the fact that one got their Hall of Fame quarterback in their 7th season coaching and the other got theirs in their 20th. Had Andy got Mahomes 15 years ago, we view him the way we view Belichick. And here's something else I can't seem to comprehend when it comes to baseball, cheating scandals. They seem to matter so much more in the legacy of teams, players, and coaches than they do in football. This is one of the most confusing things I've ever experienced as a sports fan. The steroid era ruined the legacies of some of the greatest players of all time in Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, the list goes on. The Astros cheated by using buzzers to tip pitches 6 years ago, and they still get booed on the road. Their former manager, A.J. Hinch, could win another 2,000 games at the major league level, and he has a 0% chance of making the Hall of Fame. But Belichick can have more gates attached to his legacy than a Microsoft convention, and no one seems to give a shit. The man has been proven to have cheated. Proven to have cheated throughout the last 2 decades. Has been fined and have draft picks taken from him and the Patriots, and we act like that doesn't matter. Why? We need to keep that same energy for cheating across the board, across the sports landscape. And Belichick is a cheater. That should damage his legacy and make the fact that the worst thing anyone could say about Andy Reid is that he loves tomatoes on his cheeseburger. That should make the comparison lean even further in the favor of Big Red. I'm going to get to your guys' comments in just a second, so just bear with me because I'm heated. The next part of this tweet has to do with Patrick Mahomes and how I firmly, looking in the camera, looking at you right now as we're talking, I firmly believe that he's the best quarterback of all time already. That's right. The best. Not the most successful. That's still Tom Brady. But no one, and I mean no one, can tell me that they've seen anyone ever play the quarterback position better than Patrick Mahomes has. And no, I don't need to see him play any longer for him to prove that, because Patrick is entering year 6 as a starter, and he's already played 80 regular season games and another 14 postseason games attached. Did it take us 5+ seasons for folks to know that Ryan Leaf or Jamarcus Russell were 2 of the biggest busts in NFL history? No. It took very little time to recognize that they didn't have it. Patrick Mahomes had one of the 3 greatest seasons in NFL history while winning MVP and leading his team to host the AFC Championship in his first season as a starter, and hasn't looked back since, and having the greatest 5-season stretch to begin a career in NFL history. It's not even comparable. We know that the only comparisons Mahomes will now get from here on out is with Tom Brady, because he's no longer facing the giants of yesteryear or even his current peers. There's nobody that's currently in the league, and there's some really, really good quarterbacks in this league, but there's nobody that's in Mahomes' tier. And historically, there's nobody in his tier outside of Tom Brady, and that's based upon accomplishments. Because if you look across the board, there has been no other quarterback in the league already in NFL history that has been more accomplished than Patrick Mahomes other than Tom Brady. And we know that Brady has had more success to this point than Mahomes, but to me, that's just all a matter of time, because yes, I do believe that Patrick has a shot to pass Brady in a few of these historic areas. Maybe it's Super Bowl rings, maybe it's all-time playoff stats. There's going to be a lot of things he will pass Tom Brady in. But see, to me, it's the individual comparison that matter the most, and that's what I want to focus on today. And I got some numbers for y'all. Through their first 80 regular season games, here's Patrick Mahomes. 66 completion percentage, 24,241 yards. That's 303 yards per game, NFL record. 204 total touchdowns, only 49 interceptions. 8.1 yards per attempt with a 106 quarterback rating, also the highest of all time. Tom Brady had 62 completion percentage, 17,896 yards, which is only 224 yards per game. 121 total touchdowns to 59 interceptions, 7 yards per attempt with an 88 quarterback rating. That's through 80 games. Then what about their postseason runs? Patrick Mahomes has 14 playoff games to this point of his career. So let's look at their first 14 postseason games. Patrick Mahomes' teams are 11-3. He completed 67% of his passes, 292 yards per game, 40 total touchdowns, only 7 interceptions, 7.8 yards per attempt with a 107 quarterback rating. So his quarterback rating actually goes up in the postseason than in the regular season. Tom Brady's teams were 12-2, so that's 1 win more. 61 completion percentage, 230 passing yards per game, 22 total touchdowns to 9 interceptions, 6.6 yards per attempt with an 86 quarterback rating. So his quarterback rating actually went down, even though it was already low at 88 in the regular season for his first 80 games. His number actually went down in the postseason. So that's why I love when people bring up his ring count in his first 3 postseasons, because of the fact that he actually was not good in the postseason for the majority of his first 14 postseason games. What about the grand total of things in the postseason? Games with 65 completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes has 11 to Tom Brady's 6. Games with 250-plus passing yards. Patrick Mahomes is 12 to Tom Brady's 4. Games with 300-plus passing yards. Patrick Mahomes is 5 to Tom Brady's 3. Games with 2-plus touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes is 11 to Tom Brady's 7. Games with 3-plus touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes is 9 to Tom Brady's 2. Games with 100-plus quarterback rating. Patrick Mahomes is 10 to Tom Brady's 5. What about historical seasons? Seasons with 4,500 passing yards and 35-plus touchdowns. Tom Brady has 5. Patrick Mahomes has 4. Tom Brady's got the advantage on that one. Well, seasons with 600-plus pass attempts. Tom Brady has 9. Patrick Mahomes has 2. Seasons as a starting quarterback. Tom Brady had 23. Patrick Mahomes had 5. So he's got 1 more seasons with 4,500 passing yards, and 35-plus touchdowns in 17 more seasons. Patrick Mahomes is also the only quarterback in the history of the NFL to have multiple MVPs, Super Bowl titles, and Super Bowl MVPs before turning 28. And as great and successful as Tom Brady's career was at the beginning, he still didn't have that. Almost sounds like Patrick Mahomes is a little unprecedented. What about clutch? Let's go to clutch numbers. When down 10-plus points, Patrick Mahomes' teams have won 57% of the time, by far the highest number of all time. Brady's teams won less than 38% of the time. Patrick Mahomes already has the most comeback victories when down 10-plus points ever. Think about that. A 27-year-old quarterback owns that record already. So in any way you look at them as an individual player, you know what actually matters when comparing 2 players? Mahomes is better. Brady has been more successful, but Bill Russell had 5 more rings than MJ, and I don't know a single soul who thinks Bill was the better basketball player. Rings don't make players great. They make teams great. I do believe that you have to win to an extent, but Marino never won a ring, and Eli won 2. No one with 2 eyeballs or 1 working eyeball is taking Eli over Marino. Just like when Mahomes is finally done dominating this league 15 years from now, no one is taking Brady over him, regardless of how many rings he ends up with. And my third and final legacy point in my tweet is the easiest of them all, and that's that Travis Kelce is already the greatest tight end who's ever played football. And if you are somebody that has access to Google, you can find that out really quick. Kelce just completed his 7th consecutive 1,000-yard season, extending his NFL record for the 1,000-yard seasons or 1,000-yard seasons by a tight end. The most ever after that for most consecutive seasons is 3. With 10,344 career receiving yards in just 144 games, he is just the 5th tight end in league history to eclipse 10,000 yards, 4-time All-Pro, a 3rd-round pick in 2013, also broke Robert Gronkowski's tight end record for 100-plus receiving yard games with 35. Kelce is 5th amongst tight ends with 814 career receptions and 6th with 69 nice touchdown catches. His 71.8 yards per game is highest all-time among tight ends. He holds the single-season record for tight ends and receiving yards with 1,416. And this is the craziest thing that I want to bring up when it comes to Travis Kelce, because I, for the longest time now, have stopped comparing him to other tight ends. I've compared him now to receiving players, because Travis Kelce is not comparable to tight ends anymore. You have to start comparing him to guys that have just caught the ball in general. Why do I say that? Because of his playoff numbers. And if we know anything, playoffs are what matter the most, correct? Everybody wants to talk about ring totals. Let's look at postseason stat totals. The only player that has more receptions, yards, and touchdowns than Travis Kelce in postseason history is Jerry Rice. Think about what I just said. Jerry Rice, the greatest receiver statistically we have ever seen in the history of this game, is the only guy in NFL history that has more receptions, yards, and touchdowns than Travis Kelce. Mic drop? I mean, I don't know what else you guys want me to say here, because that should tell you already. And I know that he's got some seasons to go. I think Travis Kelce's got at least a couple more baller seasons where he plays at the top of his game, and then he'll start to drift off a little bit. But it doesn't look like Travis Kelce's slowing down anytime soon. So people just assume that he's 27, 28 years old. No, he's going to be 34 in October. So he is an older player. That drop-off will come sooner rather than later. But we've seen some of the greatest tight ends of all time that stayed healthy play into their late 30s. Tony Gonzalez, Antonio Gates, Jason Witten. We saw those guys all play 37, 38 years old. So there's no reason in the world for me to think that Travis Kelce, who's been just as healthy, if not healthier than those guys, and just as effective and just as efficient, can't play for another 5 seasons. But even if he doesn't, think about what he's done in it'd be one thing if he had Patrick Mahomes his whole career. Kind of like what I talk about Andy Reid and how he was able to have such a successful career before the Patrick Mahomes era, how he deserves praise for that. Travis Kelce deserves the same before Patrick Mahomes, because he played 4 seasons with Alex Smith before he played with Patrick Mahomes. And he missed his rookie season. So he was already 5 years into his NFL career before Patrick Mahomes ever took over. So he was 27, 28 years old when Patrick finally took over. He didn't get to mold and shape his game around a great quarterback like Gronk got to with Tom Brady. So to be able to do what he did with Travis Kelce, with Alex Smith as his quarterback, and then take his game to a whole new level once he finally had an all-time great quarterback, should tell you just how great Travis Kelce is as an individual. And yes, he's perfect for Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is perfect for him, just like Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are perfect for each other. But all 3 of these guys make each other what they are. They all complement each other. Everybody talks about how Patrick Mahomes walked into this perfect situation and he got Andy Reid and all these weapons. That's all true. But it's weird to me how people seem to forget that before Patrick Mahomes got to Kansas City, Andy Reid had already coached 5 years. He already coached 5 years with the Chiefs. They had 1 playoff win. That's despite the fact that in 2013, 14, 15, and 16, they have the 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th ranked defenses. Can you give Patrick Mahomes the 2nd, 3rd, 6th, and 7th ranked defenses and tell me how many Super Bowls they win? Not playoff games. The Chiefs won 1 playoff game with those types of defenses. So what changed? What was the change? Why did Travis Kelce go from a really, really good top 5-ish tight end in the league to the quintessential best tight end in the league and now the greatest tight end of all time? How did Andy Reid go from a guy that's probably going to make the Hall of Fame, get a bunch of regular season victories, make the postseason a bunch, but never could crack the Super Bowl code, can never win the big game, to now being prohibited, arguably the greatest coach who's ever lived? What changed? The guy they brought in that traded 17 spots down in 2017. Patrick Mahomes. He changed everything. Did those guys help him out? Did Travis Kelce make his life that much easier? Did Andy Reid make his life that much easier? Absolutely. They all work in unison. But one piece changed the trajectory of those other two careers and this franchise as a whole, and it was Patrick Mahomes, which is why he's already the greatest quarterback of all time. I'm going to get your guys' comments here. See what's going on here. We got our guy, of course, my producer, baby, Clay Windler's in the comments. He says, well, you aren't wrong about Patrick Mahomes winning multiple Super Bowls. No reason Andy can't get close to Belichick. That's exactly my point. If Andy Reid, if you consider the fact that if he closes, let's say Andy just wins 2 more Super Bowls. So it's Belichick 6, Andy Reid 4. With all the playoff, because he's going to pass him in playoff appearances, he's going to pass him in playoff wins, he's going to pass him in pretty much everything else. If he closes it in within 1 to 2 Super Bowls, and then you factor in what they both were with and without their great quarterbacks in Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, it's not even a debate. Guys, again, Bill Belichick coached 10 full seasons without Tom Brady and has a losing record. Won 1 playoff game without Tom Brady. 1 playoff game. It wasn't like it'd been one thing if like he won a Super Bowl before Tom Brady as a head coach and then Tom Brady came and then, then we can start talking about it. It'd be one thing if Andy Reid was doing those things before Patrick Mahomes. That's why I talk about the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. He changed the trajectory of Andy Reid, but more so Tom Brady's abilities and what he was as a quarterback changed Belichick's even more than what Patrick Mahomes did for Andy Reid, because Andy Reid was already a coach that was winning 60% of the time and went to several conference championships, went to a Super Bowl without a great quarterback. That's the difference here, guys. So I agree with Clay 100%. If you can just close it in, close the gap, get 4 or 5 Super Bowls, which is very, very possible. Because like I said, guys, in 5 seasons together, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes have been to 3 Super Bowls and won 2. You double that down. They played, Andy Reid coaches Patrick Mahomes for 10 years, and you just go off these averages, they're going to win 4 Super Bowls together. And I actually think it's going to be more than that. Because I actually believe they're going to continue to get better together because they're going to get better rosters around Patrick Mahomes. He's going to get better, even better as a quarterback, which is scary to think for the rest of the NFL and the history books, quite frankly. And the fact that that Andy Reid is not going to drop off. He's got his nucleus in place. He knows what it takes to win. I don't see how this team isn't going to win 4 to 6 Super Bowls, guys. They're at that place now. It's okay for us to say these things because they've been to 3 in 5 years, and they won 2 of them. And let's be honest, the Chiefs not only should have won the other one against the Buccaneers had they had just one healthy starting offensive lineman, but also the fact that there were factors in place that kept the Chiefs from going to another Super Bowl in 2018. They could have went to 4 or 5. Hell, they don't have an absolute meltdown in the second half against the Bengals. The Chiefs could have went to 5 straight Super Bowls, guys. So it's not like they got knocked off in the first round, or they're like the Patriots after winning in 2001 and just don't make the playoffs at all. No, the Chiefs were knocking on the door every single year Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback. Every single year. The worst they've done since Patrick Mahomes took over is lose in overtime in a home AFC championship game. Think about how insane that is. It's not like I said, it's not like Patrick Mahomes is out here losing to Jake Plummer or Mark Sanchez in the wild card and divisional rounds like Tom Brady did in his reign. No, Patrick Mahomes is losing to Tom Brady and Joe Burrow in the AFC championships in overtime. Despite horrific decisions by D. Ford and Patrick Mahomes having his one bad playoff moment. Think about how insane that is, guys. Let's see here. We got some other comments. Why is tomatoes on cheeseburgers wrong? Look, it's just a matter of preference here. I don't like to delve off too far in sports, but I've heard that Andy Reid likes tomatoes on burgers, and for me, it's a cohesive thing. Tomato and beef patty, it just doesn't coincide very well. Put some tomato on a Cobb salad or something like that, and you got me sold, but not on beef, man. I just can't do it. The deluxe, our Myriad Corp, the deluxe quarter pounder at McDonald's is not bad for a McDonald's hamburger. It has lettuce, pickles, onions, and tomatoes. I'm gonna go ahead and trust you on that one. Our guy, James T. Kirk, an intimate conversation with Lance. You're damn right, man. Step into the studio. We're here at the lounge. Got some jazz music playing in the background. I kind of wish I did. Anybody got any Coltrane? Play some Coltrane in the background if you guys are watching this right now. That'll really set the mood because I'm even trying to like bring my baritone out, like a little, yeah. What's up, girl? No, just, yeah, go ahead and play the music that makes you guys feel like you're in the mood, and that's what we'll keep rolling with that. Our guy, Shaggy Shane. DeAndre Hopkins equals Ty Law. Yeah, that's an interesting one, Shaggy. We'll talk about the wide receiver thing in just a second because I think that's a great idea to bring that up because I know you've made the comparisons many times about the off seasons, and I remember it too. Because crazy enough, I'll tell you guys a real quick story about why our guy Shaggy Shane's bringing that up. So I was on a plane back in 06, and I sat next to this very big man, and I happened to look over to this man, and it was Willie Roaf, the Chiefs' former left tackle. And I told my dad, I'm like, I'm totally fanning out. I'm like, dude, that's Willie freaking Roaf, man. Dad's like, say what's up to him. And I actually, for the first time in my life, was kind of nervous. I'm not a nervous person at all, but I got a little nervous in front of Mr. Willie Roaf. Got off the plane, we're over in baggage claim, and I finally struck up a conversation with this man that was like literally 6 times my size. But he was like, aching and moving real slow and everything like that. And this guy's getting ready to play football. And he didn't look like a guy that could play football anymore, but he was still doing his thing. And I remember striking up a conversation. Very sweet man. I've talked to Willie since then. Very sweet man. Had great conversation with him. It wasn't very long. We talked, but him and my dad were talking just for a minute. And I remember asking him straight to his face. I said, "So is Ty Law coming to Kansas City?" Because we had heard the rumors the Chiefs are interested, but there were like 5-6 other teams that were interested. And Shaggy tells the story much better. But there was a lot of speculation that the Chiefs wanted to get Ty Law. And I remember asking specifically right to Willie's face, are the Chiefs going to get Ty Law? And I remember Willie looking me in the face and saying, man, that dude can barely walk right now. The dude's in a wheelchair. Like basically playing it down. And then he just winked at me. And I think a week later, or whatever it was, we saw that the Chiefs did ultimately sign Ty Law. And I think the reason why our guy Shaggy's bringing up the whole Ty Law situation is because of the fact that there's a lot of speculation right now with the DeAndre Hopkins situation, that the new developments, which I've been telling you guys, which more importantly, Pat freaking Mahomes Sr. has been telling everybody for weeks now, that DeAndre Hopkins and the Chiefs are still talking. This is what I've been trying to tell you guys forever now. This is what I've been trying to get you guys to understand. Y'all are trying to tell me that they don't need him or the Chiefs don't have the money, the Chiefs don't want him. Why are they still talking to him? If that is not what they want, I've been saying that on the show time and time again, why would Patrick Mahomes, our quarterback here in Kansas City, and D-Hop be having conversations on the phone over these last few months if there was nothing that was actually going to materialize out of it? Guys, I hope you're prepared for it because it is going to happen. DeAndre Hopkins will be playing for the Chiefs, just like Ty Law ultimately ended up playing for them 15, 16 years ago. It's not going to take me getting on a plane with, Donovan Smith or Juwan Taylor to find out if that's going to happen. The tea leaves are all been out there. They've been out there this whole time. And we're hearing it from exclusive sources. We're hearing it from the father of the quarterback. He's confirming this, that the Chiefs are still talking to DeAndre Hopkins. And once the Chris Jones signing, the extension takes place, the money will be available for the Chiefs to offer DeAndre Hopkins a contract. And it works out perfectly because of the fact that teams like the Patriots and Titans aren't offering him big money like Odell Beckham got from the Ravens. So if those teams that are far worse off and have no real shot of winning a Super Bowl this year are offering something that's going to be very close to what the Chiefs will offer him, it's common sense that DeAndre Hopkins is going to take that same money on a team where he can actually win a Super Bowl. We've gone over this 100 times. So I appreciate my guy Shaggy bringing that up. James T. Kirk also said, D-Hop equals an unstoppable offense. Exactly. Like, that's what I'm going to talk about in just a second, guys, is that you add a piece like this for cheap, which in comparison of other top 10 wide receivers in the league, which DeAndre Hopkins still very much is, you're getting something that's going to add a dimension to this offense they haven't had in a while. And I would say that's definitely the way you have to look at this. Debbie Strickfaden, well said, Chiefs are number one, Kelsey is number one, Mahomes number one, Reed is number one. We are tough and need to complete Chris Jones. 100% agree, Debbie. That is in the works. I don't want to give you as a definitive day because I don't know that, but I will tell you that the Chiefs and Chris Jones are working towards that extension. It will happen. I'm sure it just comes down to guaranteed dollars. I'm sure Chris Jones wants to get paid, rightfully so, but even himself, he's kind of painted himself in a corner here where he has stated he doesn't want to play anywhere else. He's not trying to reset the market. He said all the things that you want to hear, and sometimes it is just players speak, but he didn't have to say those things. And he said those things because I believe he wants fans to know he's confident it's going to get done. He's confident the Chiefs are going to help him get it done. I think if a rough guesstimation here, if I'm giving you guys just off the top of my head, I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 year deal. I've resurfaced. I thought it was going to be a 3 or 4 year deal. I think it's going to be 4 or 5. They're going to lock him up until potentially the end of his career. I think it's going to be a 4 or 5 year deal, and I think he's going to get anywhere from $25 to $27 million a year. And they're going to give him a lot a lot of guaranteed money up front. I think those first 2 years are going to have a lot of guaranteed dollars. Probably the first 3 years will have a lot of guaranteed dollars, which is probably why that fifth year will be in play. In those final 2 years, the Chiefs can get out of the contract. But yeah, that's how I think. That's how I see it going right now. Our guy James T. Kirk said, I love that story, but Hopkins ain't Ty Law. I mean, obviously they play a different position and things of that nature, but I hope you're not saying that D-Hop isn't as good at football as Ty Law was, because D-Hop is arguably the best wide receiver of the last 10 years. If you go look at his numbers next to like Devontae Adams and guys like that, it's very, very comparable. And unlike Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins only had a good quarterback throwing him the ball for about 2 of those years. So for him to put up the numbers that are comparable to anybody else over the last decade, I think it's fair to say that DeAndre Hopkins is well on his way to a Hall of Fame career, especially if he ends up here in Kansas City and gets himself a chance to win a ring. And then all of a sudden he solidifies himself as a guy Canton bound. But make no mistake about it, D-Hop has been one of the greatest, if not the greatest, wide receiver of the last 10 years. Trish, good to have you back. See you on YouTube. She says, acquiring D-Hop would totally open up the offense. Exactly. 100% agree with you, Trish. I appreciate that. James T. Kirk. Lance, I know you've explained the whole Hopkins thing before, but for the last time, can you explain why Hopkins would benefit the Chiefs? It's really simple, James. The fact that you're adding a top 10 wide receiver to an offense that was already number 1 in the league. I mean, I'm just trying to like understand, like the Patriots of the 2000s, they were the arguably best team of the 2000s, right? They won 3 Super Bowls in a 4-year span. Then a couple years later, they go and do what? Add Randy Moss, and then all of a sudden Tom Brady's career takes off, and he all of a sudden becomes an elite quarterback. There's no coincidence there. Now, the Patriots should have won that Super Bowl. They didn't win it, but they went 18-1 that year with Randy Moss in place. How about Andy Reid in Philadelphia? Went to the conference championship 4 times, and then on the 5th time, ended up cracking through and getting to the Super Bowl. Who happened to be his wide receiver that year? Terrell Owens. He finally gets himself a number 1 top 10 wide receiver, and what do you know? They go to the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that the Chiefs' future success is predicated on whether they get D-Hop or not. My point, though, is you want to make Andy Reid, you want to make Patrick Mahomes, you want to make Travis Kelce's job that much easier. That's why you add a guy like that. Trish, hi, Lance. So glad I caught the live stream. Thank you for making thank you for making the dead off-season fun. Hey, you know what, Trish? No, it's you guys. You guys make this fun. You guys give me things to talk about, and I got to come on here and run my mouth out a little bit. So thank you, Trish, for being here. We really very much appreciate it, and I appreciate all you guys, man. The comments are great, and I hope you guys keep it going, because I want to get to our next topic of discussion, and it is about the Chiefs, and it is about my second tweet of this week that got a lot of people riled up, and it's totally okay. So we posted on our Twitter account and our Facebook account my wide receiver room pre-training camp predictions. And first and foremost, if anybody's been following me for any length of time, you guys know that I'm not one that usually makes predictions earlier in the year before training camp, let alone before the season. That's just not really my style. But this year I felt a little froggy because I think the wide receiver room is so much in question right now. We posed a poll a couple of weeks ago about which position you guys feel more comfortable in, the tackles positions or the wide receiver positions. And as questionable as the tackles positions were, people still said tackle. A lot of people, and I'll go find the percentages on that. But I will tell you guys right now that there's a lot of questions that people don't want to admit that they have about the wide receiver room. I think people like the idea and the potential of some of these guys, but if they're truthful with themselves, they look in the mirror and they're honest with themselves and honest with everybody else, they know that they have a lot of questions about these guys, because there's a lot of questions to be had about these guys. But I made my wide receiver room pre-training camp predictions as far as where the wide receivers are going to go, which wide receivers the Chiefs are going to have, because Andy Reid, in his 10 years with the Chiefs, has never had more than 6 wide receivers in his room come week 1. I know a lot of people think they're going to go 7 wide receiver. I don't believe that's going to happen, because I think the Chiefs love to play in 12-13 personnel, which means they're going to need to have at least 3 or 4 tight ends, which I do expect them to have 4 tight ends this year. I think Blake Bell's going to make this team because they don't have a fullback, so therefore they're going to utilize Blake Bell for some of those quarterback sneaks they don't like to have Patrick Mahomes in. So he's going to have his opportunities to block and play roles like that. Obviously, Travis Kelce being who he is, Jody Fortson being a skilled player that goes in the end zone, gets a couple touchdowns every year when healthy, and then obviously Noah Gray being a guy that likes to stretch the field, very athletic tight end. They're all going to make this team, which is why I think vehemently the Chiefs are going to hold on to 6 wide receivers and keep the tradition alive for Andy Reid to have just 6 wide receivers. And my 6 wide receivers, excuse me, guys, my 6 wide receivers go like this. My wide receiver 1, DeAndre Hopkins. You guys already know that I very much believe that he's going to be on this team. I think he's been holding out. If he was going to sign with the Patriots, he was going to sign with the Titans, he would have already done it. But because of the fact that he's still holding out, it's been weeks now since he's met with those teams. There's been a lot of quiet, weird uncomfortability in that situation. It very much tells me that he knows that the Chiefs and Chris Jones are going to get their extension. Once that extension happens, the Chiefs are going to have well over $10 million to spend. They're going to offer him a contract with incentives, I'm sure, added to it, and he's going to get his money, and he's going to play for the Kansas City Chiefs. And once he does, he will 100% be the Chiefs' wide receiver 1. So wide receiver 1 for me is DeAndre Hopkins. Wide receiver 2 is Kadarius Toney. Now, you guys know I have my criticisms on Kadarius Toney. Dude can't stay healthy. He's missed 15 games in just 2 seasons. I think that's a large majority of why the Giants were so upset with him and ultimately moved off of him, because they felt that this guy has insane talent, but he's a guy that they just cannot trust health-wise. And I think that's why Kadarius Toney has had the criticisms he had, but I do believe that Kadarius Toney has wide receiver 1 talent. So I think that Kadarius Toney is going to be a guy that's going to bring that type of skill set to the Chiefs at wide receiver 2. He will be, in my opinion, if healthy, and that's a big if healthy, he will be one of the best wide receiver 2s in the entire NFL because, like I said, he has the talent to be a wide receiver 1. I just don't think his body, I don't think his experience is there yet to trust him at the wide receiver 1 role, which is why, again, having D-Hop is going to take so much pressure off of these young, skilled players like Kadarius Toney. Also, wide receiver 3, Sky Moore. So I know that there's a controversy there because a lot of people think that MVS is going to be a wide receiver 2 or 3 on this team. Well, as currently constructed, I would agree. But I think, like I said, DeAndre Hopkins, once he's in town, that's going to move everybody down a peg. And because of the fact that I know that this team wants to move forward with skilled players, young, skilled, cheap players like Kadarius Toney, who they have 3 more years of control over. Like Sky Moore, they have 3 more years of control over. They want to get these guys and get them as much usage as possible. So a wide receiver 3, Sky Moore, in year 2 very much excites me. I don't think he's a guy that's going to put up over 1,000 yards, but he's going to be a guy that's going to play in that slot a lot, and Patrick Mahomes loves to throw to the slot. I think you're going to see Sky Moore be utilized a lot like a Wes Welker type of player where he's getting these 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 6s when Travis Kelce's double team, when DeAndre Hopkins is over on the right side. I think you're going to see Sky Moore get opportunities to be able to convert 3rd downs. He's got reliable hands when it comes to catching passes, not so much catching punts and kicks, but I think catching passes, Sky Moore's going to be a very reliable asset for the Chiefs in year 2 as a wide receiver 3 as he continues to climb the board for the Chiefs and gain trust with the coaching staff and, quite frankly, with Patrick Mahomes. Which is my wide receiver 4 is MVS. I know a lot of people think I hate MVS. I don't hate MVS. I actually think MVS plays his role, but that's the thing. I actually know what his role is. He's a role player. He's a guy that makes a good catch here and there. He's a burner downfield kind of guy. But even as big and as tall as he doesn't have big, long arms. He doesn't have a great catch radius. He's not a guy that you can rely on a week-to-week basis, guys. That's why what he did in the AFC Championship was so awesome. Because Juju goes down. Kadarius Toney's down. Like they're scrambling for players for Patrick Mahomes to throw to. He's got one leg out there throwing the football, and MVS stepped up. I will give him all the credit in the world. He played an insane game, had 111 yards and a touchdown. But do you know what he had for the rest of the postseason? About 100 yards and 0 touchdowns. So MVS is a role player. If he was ever going to be something special, he had done it last year when it was just him and Juju as the wide receivers. Kadarius Toney came in late in the year and still missed a ton of games, and Sky Moore was still developing his game. We know rookies don't do well in Andy Reid's offense. So 27-year-old MVS should have stepped in and had 1,000 yards. He didn't, because he's not that guy. Which is why I think he's going to go down a peg once D-Hop's in here, Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore in year 2 of this offense. They're going to be more familiar with it. They're going to be more comfortable with it. And I frankly think they're going to be better than what MVS is or ever would be in this offense. And my wide receiver 5, for whatever reason, this is controversial to a lot of fans too. I have Justin Watson on this team. Biggest reason why? It isn't because I'm a big fan of his. I'm not. I don't trust his hands. I think he's a very limited player. But at the same time, I think that the Chiefs have shown, and Patrick Mahomes has shown, they trust him. They trust his ability. They trust what he can do at wide receiver. So much so, they had him on a 1-year deal last year and then gave him a 2-year deal this year. And he has guaranteed money attached to his contract. So I don't really understand how this one's controversial to anybody, because if everything goes as planned, whether D-Hop's here or not, I think Justin Watson's making this team. I think the Chiefs now have told us that barring an injury or barring somebody coming out of the absolute blue that just woes the Chiefs, I don't see how he doesn't make this team. I fully believe Justin Watson's going to be wide receiver 5 for this team this season. And then wide receiver 6, I said if Rashee Rice is your wide receiver 6 going into this new season, that you have a very, very good, dare I say, stacked wide receiver room. Because a lot of people penciled Rashee Rice as a wide receiver 4 or 5 for this team. Guys, I promise you do not want to see a rookie wide receiver play an important role in an Andy Reid offense. Go look at Tyreek Hill's numbers. Go look at McCole Hardman's numbers. Those are about as good as it gets when it comes to a rookie wide receiver in the Andy Reid offense. And those numbers were not that good. They're very pedestrian. They're about in the 600 yards, 5-6 touchdowns range. That's not what you're going to get out of Rashee Rice, because I don't believe he's Tyreek Hill. I don't think that's how it's going to work for him, and I don't think that you're going to see him get some of these opportunities like Tyreek Hill got in that offense in 2016. Rashee Rice, though, at wide receiver 6, to learn, develop, and understand this game better in this offense, being a guy that plays on special teams, being a guy that goes out there and does what he does and opportunities he's given, that's ideal for me. Rashee Rice should basically have like an essential redshirt season in this offense this year and have 5 guys ahead of him. Now, I know this is very much controversial, and our guy Noah Groniger, Starcade Media, shout out, one of the presidents, one of the founders of Starcade Media, asked the question, do you feel Justin Ross is a similar type of build and wide receiver as Rashee Rice? If so, does that make him tougher for Justin to make the roster along with not being a core special teamer like Justin Watson and Richie James? Great questions from Noah Groniger right there. This segues right into my point, because I know so many people are upset with me with the fact that I don't have Justin Ross making this roster. And I will say, to Noah's point, I think Justin Ross has a similar build to what Rashee Rice is, but Rashee Rice is a much more complete receiver and, quite frankly, is more reliable physically. Guys, we have to understand that Justin Ross hasn't played football in 2 years. It's been 2 years. Did he have a great start to his college career? Yes. He was 18, 19 years old in the championship game, catching a bunch of passes and having a big game with I believe it was Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. He's had big moments in his college career. But I have seen, and this is the same question I ask people over and over and over again, what is it that Justin Ross has done to this point that makes me believe that this guy is not only going to make the roster, but play a pivotal role for this team? Is he talented? Yes. He has talent. I'm not sitting here saying the guy sucks at football, but his body is already experiencing a breakdown effect. He already has had spinal fusion surgery. He's already had ankle surgery. He's had many things that have kept him off this team. And again, if there was a year where Justin Ross was going to be able to show us something, anything, it'd have been last season when they lost Tyreek Hill and they had a bunch of guys. That would have been the year that Justin Ross would have said, hey, you know what? Made this roster, did his thing. But supposedly he got injured again and was put on the IR. So what am I supposed to believe about this guy, especially if and when the Chiefs added DeAndre Hopkins? You guys are telling me that Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore are ready to take on the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 abilities. People are telling me MVS is better than I think he is. Well, if that's 3 wide receivers right there. And if those 3 guys are going to take up a lot of the targets, not to mention Travis Kelce's still here with the 150 to 160 targets owed to him, where is Justin Ross fitting in this offense? I don't see it. That's why my wide receiver 5 and 6 are guys that are going to just spot fill here and there, the guys that they can rely on with their physical abilities and they stay healthy. Justin Ross has shown me nothing to say that, guys. I know he has a big fan base here because the kid is talented, he's exciting, all those other things. But he's done literally nothing in his NFL career for me to sit here and put him and pencil him in to an offense that won't use him. There's only 6 spots, guys, in Andy Reid's offense when it comes to wide receivers. Which of these 6 wide receivers can you say the Chiefs would pick Justin Ross over? I can't pick any of them because as limited as Justin Watson is, the dude's available and has played well in big games for the Chiefs. That close nail-biting game against the Chargers, a big game earlier in the year last year, who caught the big touchdown? It was Justin Watson. So as much as I'm not a big fan of his, he's at least shown me that he can do things. Justin Ross hasn't. And Rashee Rice, the Chiefs just traded up and got him in the second round. Why would they take a wide receiver in the second round if they felt that they already had a guy like Justin Ross who's young and cheap that could play that role? If Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney, all those guys are ready for that role, wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2, why isn't Justin Ross on this team right now? Being their wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4. Why are they still in talks with DeAndre Hopkins if they have Justin Ross sitting there waiting to become the next great thing? These are the questions you guys have to ask yourself. I'm not saying don't be a fan of Justin Ross. I'm not saying don't believe that he can become something. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just challenging you to look at this from an honest perspective. That Justin Ross we have no reason to believe that Justin Ross is going to become anything special on this team. We quite frankly have no reason to believe he's going to make this roster. And so far, at this time, I don't believe he's going to. Let's see here. King MVP Will, got a question. What's taking so long with the contract with Jones when training is... I'm sorry, I want to read this correctly. Got a question. What's taking so long with the contract with Jones when training camp is around the corner? Have you heard anything about it? Yeah, we've heard plenty about it. Everything that I've heard personally and from outside and on Twitter and from Jeremy Fowler and all the other guys is that this is going to get done. I've been telling you guys for weeks now that if you listen to the way Brett Veach has talked about Chris Jones and this contract extension, it's much different than the whole Tyrann Mathieu or Orlando Brown Jr. situation. Because with Tyrann Mathieu and Orlando Brown, it was always like, yeah, we'll hopefully we can get in there and talk to them. We love the guys, and it was very like at arm's distance with those guys. Not that they didn't want those guys, but I think they kind of knew the writing was on the wall that Orlando Brown's not accepting our $200 million contract offers. Tyrann Mathieu is 30. We don't like to extend guys of that age, and he kind of made some business decisions on this final year. We appreciate what he did, helping us change the culture, win a Super Bowl, things of that nature, but I think it's time. When it comes to Chris Jones, the man's a unicorn, and he just turned 29 years old this last week. He's showing no signs of slowing down. He's an absolute man's man. He's a Chief through and through. I would be absolutely shocked if the Chiefs didn't get anything done because, quite frankly, the Chiefs can't afford to not get anything done. Because even if they didn't end up adding DeAndre Hopkins, the Chiefs have no cap space now to add to guys that if there was to be injuries in training camp and in preseason, which they're bound to happen. So even if the Chiefs weren't going after DeAndre Hopkins, they're going to need to open up cap space to get role players. They're going to have to go and get another corner, another edge rusher, another offensive lineman. They're going to have to go and add pieces anyway to a roster that's not going to stay healthy all year. So what way can they do that? What's the best way? What's the easiest way? Getting that $29 million cap hit off your books that's attached to Chris Jones, which means what? You got to extend him. And oh my God, how terrible is that? You just extended the greatest defensive lineman in the NFL right now. Do you guys know that Chris Jones last season had the most double teams? He faced the most double teams in the NFL and still had the number 1 win rate amongst all pass rushers. Think about that. Most double teams, best win rate. Chris Jones there's nobody like him. The Chiefs know that. And if the Chiefs were trying to move off of Chris Jones, they would already have traded him before this last draft and went and tried to stockpile picks to try to replace him because they would know it would take 2 to 3 picks just to have a chance at replacing his value. And even then, it's shitty at best. So the Chiefs know they can't replace him. They're going to extend him, and the Chiefs are going to open up money to go and get a DeAndre Hopkins and or pass rushers, anybody they need to fill in the back end for depth. All right. Trish says, Justin Ross makes the practice squad. Do you see him getting poached by other teams? Yes, absolutely. I absolutely do. If Justin Ross ends up making the practice squad, which I fully expect him, he would make the practice squad because he's good enough to be on the practice squad. If he makes the PS, I fully expect there will be a team that would jump in. But here's the other thing, guys. We got to remember. Even if Justin Ross was to get picked up, it's not like he's going to get picked up and become someone's wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 or even wide receiver 3. Somebody else is picking him up because they have a need at wide receiver 4 or 5. The Chiefs, according to my prediction and to a lot of other predictions, don't have a need at wide receiver 3 or 4 or 5. The Chiefs have Sky Moore, MVS, and Justin Watson as my 3, 4, and 5. All 3 of those guys are better, more reliable assets than Justin Ross. And that would be the story for a lot of other teams. So whoever would pick him up obviously would have a purpose and a plan, but they also look at it and say, well, this guy's 22 years old and he's cheap and he's got talent. Like, you always want to add guys like that to your practice squads or to your roster. So it wouldn't shock me at all if Justin Ross ended up get taken from another team if in fact that ends up happening, which I do expect, like I said, for him to make the practice squad. And once he makes the practice squad, the chances of him being picked up are very, very much likely. Arrowhead News and Rumors Report. Gave him a shout out last weekend. Hello, brother. Hope you're doing good, my man. Keep it up. Keep going. He's 13 years old. He does a show on his own, guys, on YouTube. Go ahead and hit him. Give him a subscription as well. Arrowhead News, Rumors and Arrowhead News and Rumors Report. He's got passion, man. He's a good kid, I can tell, and he's got some good things cooking, guys. Red Trip Cinema, Clay Windler. Lance hates vegetables. That's not completely true. I actually like tomatoes. I just don't like it on my burger, man. Let us know what you guys want to talk about, man. I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of things I want to discuss when it comes to this wide receiver room, because again, it is very it's very nuanced. We don't know how this wide receiver room is going to look. I'm confident in one way that I think it's going to go, but I want to hear you guys. How do you see the wide receiver room shaping up before week 1? Who's your wide receiver one? Do you guys think DeAndre Hopkins is coming to Kansas City? I mean, the developments have got to be convincing you guys. Hearing Pat Sr. talk about it has to convince you guys that the Chiefs still being on the monitor, still watching D-Hop, paying attention to what's going on, and they're about to open up some cap space. DeAndre Hopkins not signing with teams that are offering him money now. That has to tell you that there's something going on, guys. The D-Hop, Patrick Mahomes, they're all talking. They're like, hey, hold the fort down, man. Just chill for a little bit. You know, training camp hasn't even started yet. Chris Jones hasn't got an extension yet. It'd be one thing, guys, if Chris Jones had gotten his extension 3-4 weeks ago, and we're still sitting here without signing DeAndre Hopkins. That would be like, okay, maybe the Chiefs really aren't interested. But because of the fact that hasn't happened yet, that the biggest obstacle hasn't fallen down, the biggest domino hasn't fallen down yet, and he's still sitting out there, tells me that what I've been thinking, what I've been believing, what I've been predicting for months now is going to be what ends up happening. Trish says, I am really excited to see how the defense performs this season. The young secondary now has great experience, and the D-line is being invested in, and with Bolton leading the linebacker group. I 100% agree. It's hard to complain on how Brett Veach has built this defense, and in particular, the front seven. I know the secondary is young studs out there, and I told you guys a year ago that it was starting to look like they were trying to rebuild the Legion of Boom, and I know that's putting a lot of praise out there, but I'm saying the mentality of how the Seahawks built their defense. They built it from the outside in. And that was very unprecedented because most defenses love to build front sevens that can get after the quarterback. The Seahawks didn't have a defense that were known to go out there and get the quarterback in 2013, 14, 15, and 16. Those defenses were built around Richard Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, guys like that stopped the pass game because they saw the way the NFL was changing. You saw the way Peyton Manning in 2013, threw for 5,400 yards and 55 touchdowns, set the NFL records, and ironically faced that Seahawks defense and got shut down 43-8. So they were building a defense that was more apt to stopping the pass game, which I totally understood, and I understood why Brett Veach was doing it in the draft. But now you're seeing him build and shape and mold the defense in the front seven as well, making him one of the most complete defenses in the NFL, if you ask me. And even the young guys that are on this defense that aren't making any money, that are late draft picks, they all got their teeth cut this last year. So these young guys that are coming in this year, like Chamari Connor, they're going to get an opportunity to play next to guys that are their age, but have a ton of experience to teach them and tell them about. So I'm really excited about it as well. And when you talk about the D-line and how much they're invested with Nick Bolton and behind the linebacker group, I think the Chiefs have one of the 3 best linebacker groups in the entire NFL. I said it yesterday on Twitter. I think Drew Tranquill is going to have such an impact on this defense this year that people don't realize. He's the most versatile linebacker they've had since DJ. I know people say Willie Gay. Willie Gay is an athletic freak, don't get me wrong. But what Drew Tranquill brings to this defense, where he can play kind of like a hybrid safety, tackle the way he does, stop the pass game the way he does, go after the quarterback the way he does, it's at a different level. And he's at the perfect age. He's 28 years old on a 1-year deal, I think worth up to $5 million. He has everything to play for. And Andy Reid pitching him the way he did, talking about, hey, man, see things red, see things, view it for Super Bowls. It changed everything for Tranquill when it came to free agency. He came here. I'm sure he passed about some money for some scrub team out there that was probably offering him, but he saw the incentive of playing for the Chiefs, and he's got a lot to prove this year, and I can't wait to see him. And taking him away from a divisional foe is already great great, but bring him into a defense I think he's going to fit seamlessly and play a big veteran role in. I couldn't be more excited about the D-line. You guys already know Keandre Coburn. I think he's going to be the guy. Keandre Coburn, that's the kid I'm most excited about on the defensive side because of the fact that I think he's going to get the most opportunity amongst all the rookie players because of the fact that Shamari Connor plays a position that L'Jarius Sneed's playing at currently. It'll be limited snaps for him. I think that you're going to see, obviously, FAU get his chance on the defensive line, but Keandre Coburn has really nobody in front of him outside of maybe a Derek Nottie, who is a rotational piece. Playing next to Chris Jones, playing with those pass rushers like he will, he's going to get some opportunity to play early in the season. Even though he's a 6th-round pick, I promise you guys, this kid's going to be special. He wants to play football and play at a high level. Let's see here. Julia Gulia, nice wedding singer. I appreciate that. She says, "Tell me we're letting Lucas Niang go, and where does Tranquil mean to our linebacker room?" Well, I've already addressed the linebacker. I didn't even see your comment, but yeah, I've already given you my take on Tranquil. I don't think they're going to let Lucas Niang go because of the fact that, yes, Lucas Niang has a long history of injuries. I understand that, but I got at least one foot still in the Niang gang because I think this guy is insanely talented. We heard back with Chase Young in 2019 coming out of the draft when he said that the single hardest tackle he ever faced in college was Lucas Niang. Now, he's had a string of injuries. He's had some really bad injuries, too. I think he had a patella tendon. He snapped it against the Bengals when he switched from right to left tackle. But before that game, man, Lucas Niang was playing some really good football, guys. I don't think he's going to start on this team by any means, but I think he's going to make the roster because the Chiefs don't have a ton at right tackle or left tackle. That's the one thing I've been talking about. A concern I've had is they're not very deep at tackle. And that's not something you want when you have your quarterback being the quarterback he is, which he will hold the ball. I know everybody crushed Orlando Brown Jr. for talking about, well, Joe Burrow gets the ball out faster than Patrick Mahomes, which I like. I felt like that was just him being honest. That doesn't make Joe Burrow a better quarterback. That just means he throws the ball a little bit quicker than Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't hold on to the ball because why? Joe Burrow gets sacked at an historically high level. Patrick Mahomes is more nifty. He creates with his feet a little bit more. He waits, lets the defense break down a little bit, and he hits Travis Kelce or one of these other guys for 15, 20 yards. That's a little bit tougher on offensive linemen. And I think that, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for some of these guys to play, and that's what worries me a little bit is because there's unproven commodities for the Chiefs at tackle. Now, I think Juwan Taylor at right tackle is proven. He's one of the best in the game. But we don't even know if he's playing at that position. We have no idea. And I think Lucas Niang, being a guy that's been with this team now for 4 years, he's going to have a roster spot, barring any injuries or setbacks. Julia Gulia, again, I'm really excited about Nick Jones and Shamari Connor, realistic or not. Yeah, it's very realistic. I think they're going to play a smaller role than what some people might anticipate, because like I said, L'Jarius Sneed and Shamari Connor play essentially that same role. I think Shamari Connor is actually going to be L'Jarius Sneed's replacement. I know a lot of people want to see L'Jarius Sneed get extended, but as I've been telling Trevor and telling a lot of other people, the track record here for Brett Veach being the Chiefs GM over these last 5 years is he does not extend or pay a lot of money to the cornerback position. That's just not how you see him do those things, especially in safety as well. So no matter what position you put L'Jarius Sneed in, you don't see Brett Veach investing a ton of money into those positions. Justin Reed, Tyrann Mathieu, those are exceptions. Those are veteran guys you're bringing in to play a stopgap role at safety. But I think Shamari Connor, you draft him essentially at the same spot of the draft that you got L'Jarius Sneed back in 2020. I think you're seeing that the Chiefs are planning on moving off of him and not spending the money at that position at L'Jarius Sneed. And he'll be 27 years old. The Chiefs may look at it like, look, we got the most out of L'Jarius Sneed. They let Charvarius Ward walk. He ended up getting $40-something million out of the Niners because, as I explained to Trevor last week, a lot of other teams in the NFL have to build their teams differently than the Chiefs because they're not as quarterback reliant as the Chiefs are. The 49ers go and spend the money they did on Charvarius Ward. Why? Because they don't have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. If Patrick Mahomes is playing for the 49ers, the Niners aren't spending that kind of money on a safety or a cornerback. The Chiefs don't spend money at safety and cornerback like other teams do because why? Every team has to save somewhere, and the Chiefs look at it like, look, we can save at cornerback. We can keep drafting the way Brett Veach has been doing in the later rounds and to build and develop around these other guys, and then we can spend money on the offense and continue to give Patrick Mahomes more weapons and more opportunities, more protection up front, and that's how I think the Chiefs are going to continue to do it. So when it comes to Shamari Connor, when it comes to Nick Jones, you should be excited because these guys, to me, are 2024 and beyond type of picks. If they're going to become something, it will become after this next season. I think 2024 and beyond is when you'll see those guys become something. Hold on real quick. Our guy Noah Groniger again in the chat. If no DeAndre, I see Kadarius, MVS, Sky, and Rashi. Then Justin Watson and Richie James making it for their special teams abilities. I'd love Justin Ross to make it, but they'd have to keep 7. 100% agree, Noah. If there is no DeAndre, Kadarius is probably going to by default be the wide receiver 1, and that does worry me because again, he has the skill set. Don't get me wrong, guys. I'm very much team Kadarius here. I very much believe he's got the skill set to be a wide receiver 1 in this league, but he is just not trustworthy when it comes to availability, and that can't be debated. 15 games missed in just 2 seasons. And even when he came here to Kansas City, we saw in that Jaguars game, he does the Patrick Mahomes throws the ball, he adjusts his glove, catches the ball in midair. It's fun. It's exciting. Oh my God, this kid is breaking ankles. It's like the human joystick all over again. It's fun to watch. And then he misses an additional 6 games after that. Like, that's what's worrying me about that, him being the wide receiver 1. Because if he goes down, if Travis Kelce goes down, then you're talking about the Chiefs relying on MVS and Sky Moore as their 2 premier receivers. It's very worrisome. That's very, very worrisome. Can Patrick Mahomes make the most of it? Sure. He probably could. He's that great. But do you really want to put that on Patrick Mahomes where he has to go out there and rely on MVS and Sky Moore and guys like that to carry their offense? That's very scary to think about. Quite frankly, if Patrick does it again, you might as well just hand him his 3rd MVP trophy because ain't nobody can do that. So I agree. I do agree with Noah on that. Richie James is an interesting one because, as you know, I didn't have him on mine because I think that Richie is going to be an exclusive special teams type of player, which means he'll probably end up on the Chiefs practice squad. I don't know if he'd get picked up by somebody else, maybe if there's an injury to another team. But I'm not as big on Richie as a lot of other people are. He's 27 years old. I like the signing initially. It's a low risk, potentially decent reward for the Chiefs. But that again, the context changes for me when I see the Chiefs can go out there and get a top 10 wide receiver like a DeAndre Hopkins because the value for a Richie James drops significantly off this team. And again, if Justin Watson didn't have the contract he had, if let's say Richie James and Justin Watson had the same contract, I might want to keep Richie James more because of the fact that he's got punt and kick return abilities far better than Justin Watson. But the fact that Justin Watson got that contract with the guaranteed dollars and a 2-year deal, I have a feeling the Chiefs value him a little bit more than Richie James. So I'm not big on Richie James making this team under my predictions, but I do agree that the only way Justin Ross would make this roster is if Andy Reid decided to break his tradition and for the first time in a decade carry 7 receivers to his roster. I just don't see that happening. We have a Facebook user. I apologize, it doesn't say your name on here, but I'm gonna give the comment anyway. So hey, actually, Facebook users, if you guys want to swing over to YouTube, I can see your name, username, all that stuff, and I can give you guys credit for your comments. So go ahead and hit us up on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification button, and then go and hit the comment bar if you'd rather do that. Facebook user says, do you think Jones will want Donald money? I'm assuming you're talking about Chris Jones. Even though he said that wasn't the most important thing, I would offer him a 4-year, $100 to $105 million deal, but offer him $40 million in bonus, a huge bonus for a non-quarterback. Space it over 5 years, 8 per, and backload his salary to 3 or 4 years. Then cap his $300 million. John Harrison. Johnny Harrison, love you to death, bro. Always appreciate your contributions to the show. I 100% agree with that contract structure. 100%. And then in fact, I think I already mentioned it a few minutes ago, how I see this contract going down. I initially thought it was going to be 3 to 4 year deal. I actually think it's going to be 4 or 5 years. I think the Chiefs are going to lock him up long term, keep him until he's in his early 30s, maybe potentially mid 30s. I think the first 3 years will be what you need to pay attention to. I think that's where you're going to see all the guaranteed dollars, the signing bonuses, all that stuff like you were talking about. Definitely need to front load that deal because at his position, he's not old, but he's not young anymore. He's 29. You'd probably want to front load that contract as much as you possibly can. And I think Chris Jones wouldn't complain about that as well because he's getting 3 years essentially guaranteed, fully guaranteed, and then a 4th and 5th year deal to figure out what they want to do moving forward, whether he's still at the top of his game. And my God, if he still is, then he's worth every penny. I don't initially think, though, that he's going to try to get the Aaron Donald money. That doesn't mean he's not going to get it, though, in totality, because I think Aaron Donald got a shorter deal, and it was like $96-97 million, and the guaranteed dollars were very nice for Aaron Donald. He earned every penny of that because Aaron Donald, to that point, was the best player at his position and is maybe the best player ever at his position. So he earned every penny of that as well. But I don't think that Chris Jones is trying to get that. but I think he's bound to get 25 plus just from the market. I mean, you saw Quinnen Williams. If you look at SpotRack.com, Quinnen Williams is 4 years younger than Chris Jones, and I think he's lined up for $27.5 million. So I definitely think it's going to be in that range, 25 to 27 million over a 4 or 5 year deal. So I'm with you on that 100%, John. Noah Groninger also says, let me look at here. Keep an eye on the safeties as that's one of the biggest unknowns going into the season. How does Mike Edwards work in? Is Brian Cook up to being the starter? Great question, Noah. Those are guys that are not getting enough. There's not enough conversation at that position this offseason. I have not really understood that. I think it's a very important position to watch. I 100% agree with you on that. The biggest unknowns, I would say that's the truth, because even though Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie are the young corners, those guys proved themselves, man, in the postseason run, big time. They very much proved themselves in the ways that they played against the Jaguars, Bengals, and then ultimately we saw in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Now, the Eagles put up a lot of points, but these young guys played well, man, and the Chiefs, I think, had 9 rookies play in the Super Bowl, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the most in like 35 to 40 years. Mike Edwards, where does he work in? That's a good question. I think I like Mike Edwards. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to make some moves here and there. I think he's going to be a better version of what the Chiefs have had at Rashad Fenton kind of guys, where they kind of play those smaller roles. Rashad Fenton struggled a lot last year. They ended up trading him, I think, for like a conditional 6th-round pick to the Falcons. Mike Edwards is 27 years old. The Chiefs got him on a very, very, very nice deal. 1 year, I think it was worth up to $5 million, just like Drew Tranquill's. Veteran player, came in from the Buccaneers, played really well with the Buccaneers. I think he's had some injury concerns, but I think playing in this defense is a limited rotational piece. I'm really excited to see what he can do with this. Brian Cook is the guy I'm really very much paying attention to. Our guy Shane Williams calls him Dirty Cookie. He was also a guy that did something very special in the AFC Championship when, Joshua Williams caught that second interception from Joe Burrow, but it was Brian Cook that did the tip drill. He read the ball very well, tipped it over to Joshua Williams, basically got an assist. It was like a Jason Williams white chocolate type of pass to his guy Joshua Williams. I'm actually looking forward to what Brian Cook's going to bring to the team this year. He's going to get plenty of opportunity. I don't know if he's going to be the starter. I don't know who's going to start at that position, but I think Brian Cook having a second year in this defense is going to have the inside track to it if he stays healthy. He's a big physical freak, man. I mean, he's a big safety, and I'm really excited to see what Spags is going to do with him. King MVP Will. So I did a news feed saying we should use that cap space to resign Snead instead of going for D-Hop. What do you think about that? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't want to repeat myself here, so forgive me if it seems this way. But I don't want to see the Chiefs change their mentality. And again, these guys know this stuff better than I do. I'm not sitting here saying I know how to build a roster better than Brett Veach. I don't. I promise you I don't. But if I'm seeing the Chiefs spend money, I want them to continue to go down the path they've been going down, which is you draft for defense and you pay for offense. Now, you're going to have your exceptions. Chris Jones, obviously, is going to make his money. That's because he's a unicorn. He's a one-of-one player. There's nobody in the league right now that compares to Chris Jones at his position. So you have to pay him. He's special. L'Jarius Sneed is really good, and I love L'Jarius Sneed. I very much appreciate him on this team, and I wouldn't be mad if the Chiefs paid him. But he's not a guy, in my opinion, the Chiefs pay at 27, 28 years old. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Could they do it? Sure. But if the Chiefs knew, okay, we have a glaring need at wide receiver 1, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, it is the truth. That's why the Chiefs are still very much into DeAndre Hopkins. If we can pay him the extension money we get through Chris Jones, or keep L'Jarius Sneed for extend him when we don't need to because we already have him on a 1-year deal still, and we just essentially drafted his replacement in Shamari Connor. Why would we pay that money to L'Jarius Sneed when we already have control of him for this year, and D-Hop is just sitting out there waiting for us to come and get him? I think it's without question, without debate, you got to spend that money on DeAndre Hopkins. Then we have another Facebook user. I think it might have been John Harrison, but I don't want to give him credit yet. John, if this is you, go ahead and confirm it. It says, you think it's smart for the Chiefs to keep playing musical chairs with the left tackle? No. Okay, there are things that I'm notorious for amongst Chiefs fans. And one of those things has been defending Orlando Brown Jr. Now, I understand that there are things that Orlando Brown didn't do great at. But one thing he did do great at is he played big in big games. You can't debate that. There's a reason why the Chiefs offered him 2 different $100 million contracts, because they knew what they traded for was the guy they were going to ultimately get. I think Orlando Brown still had growing pains at left tackle because he played right tackle for the majority of his early career. But you saw in big games, Orlando Brown Jr. showed up and showed out. There is no debating that. On a random, week 7 game, sometimes he struggled. I will say that. But you got to also remember, guys, the gauntlet of pass rushers that Orlando Brown has gone against, moving over from right tackle to left tackle, also going from a run-heavy offense in Baltimore to a pass air raid offense in Kansas City. It's a big, big adjustment for Orlando Brown Jr. And I wanted to see the Chiefs keep him. I wanted to see the Chiefs pay him and pay him long-term. Now the Chiefs have Donovan Smith, assumed Donovan Smith at left tackle going into this next season, and I'm very nervous about that because this will now also be the Chiefs' third left tackle they've been starting in week 1 over the last 4 years. That's very nerve-wracking. Eric Fisher was a very solid left tackle. I was good with the Chiefs moving off of him, primarily for the fact he was 30 years old and he's coming off an Achilles tear. It was probably time to move off of Eric Fisher, and there were other options out there. What I think right now, and I gave this prediction a couple of shows ago, I don't know which one it was. I'll try to pull the clip. But I did say that I do fully anticipate, and we're still a long ways away, but if I was making a close my eyes and shoot in the sky kind of prediction, I would anticipate that the first pick the Chiefs take in the draft next year will be an offensive tackle. Biggest reason why is because it's one of their biggest needs moving forward, and this draft class coming up will be much better at that position than this last one. That was one of the biggest reasons why the Chiefs waited until the 3rd round to take an offensive lineman, because there wasn't a lot of guys to take at those positions, and the best ones were all in the top 15, 20 picks. The Chiefs obviously didn't get there. No one was willing to trade up for the Chiefs or trade with the Chiefs. The Bengals and Cowboys both shut them down at the tail end of the first round. So I never thought the Chiefs were taking a wide receiver in the first round. But I do anticipate, if I was to make a bet right now, the first position they take off the board, depending on how the season goes, I would say left tackle is going to be very much their early and often target. Julia Gulia said, Snead had more missed tackles than Thornhill last year, and Veach don't like paying cornerbacks. Red flags are nothing. Oh, it's definitely not nothing. It's definitely not nothing. I don't want to sit here and say that Snead doesn't have his own issues. But I do think that it's a little bit skewed, though, because if I'm not mistaken, Snead had more snaps last year than Juan Thornhill, more opportunities for tackle. So he's going to probably have more missed tackles on a given basis. But one thing that Snead has gotten really good at, though, I don't want to contradict your statement here because you're right. One thing I will say that Snead's gotten really, really good at is his tackling. He has been able to open field tackle a lot better than he did previous times. It's just the overall value of his position and him as a player. You're right. Veach doesn't spend at that position. The Chiefs are 8-1 without L'Jarius Snead since he's been drafted. And he played 4 snaps in the AFC Championship against the Bengals, and the Chiefs didn't miss him. Let's be real. The young guys balled out. Chris Jones in the front 7 obviously dominated the Bengals offensive line, which made it easier. But we got to give Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, Trent McDuffie, and Brian Cook a lot of credit. They played their asses off, man. And that, I hate to say it because, it isn't popular to say, but it made L'Jarius Snead expendable. That's just the nature of the beast, guys. That's how this stuff goes. And when you're in a business like this, a harsh business like football, you're going to have to make some cutthroat decisions. And you're going to have to cut weight in certain positions, guys. And I know we all want to keep our favorite players forever, but when you're a team like the Chiefs especially that's trying to win Super Bowls every single year, you can't keep everybody because you have to pay everybody. That's why there's so many free agents every year that are going to all these other places that are willing to pay them. L'Jarius Snead has already had his success here in Kansas City, so it's time for him to get paid, which I don't think is going to happen here in Kansas City because the Chiefs focus their money and their energy at other positions, and they continue to draft at that position. And my rule is always this. Do I think Brett Veach is better at his job than that guy, that player? I think that Brett Veach is better at his job than L'Jarius Snead is. Not a shot at L'Jarius. That's praise to Veach. I think Veach can replace L'Jarius Snead. I think that's already probably going to happen. I think they already have that guy on the roster. Trish asks, do you believe Harrison Butker will become more consistent this year? I really believe he was affected by the injury he suffered in the first game last year. I do believe that injury did affect his season trajectory. Harrison Butker has been one of the most consistent kickers, not only of just recent memory, but in NFL history. If I'm not mistaken, amongst all active kickers, he has the second highest field goal percentage in the NFL. I think he knocks down 90 or 91%, right under Justin Tucker, who's maybe the greatest kicker of all time. I do expect that Harrison Butker is going to have a bounce back year. My concern has always been PATs when it comes to Harrison Butker because he misses a lot of them. I know he gets a lot of opportunities, but guys, when you're kicking from 20 yards out, I could say this legitimately, I can make those kicks. You can make those kicks if you practice kicking for a month. PATs are chip shots. There's no reason in the world why Butker is missing. He's missed the most PATs in the NFL since 2017 when he joined the Chiefs. That's inexcusable. That's what he needs to worry about. That's what he needs to fix. Because I'll be honest with you, outside of Justin Tucker, and sometimes even more than Justin Tucker, if the Chiefs are 50 yards away and it's January, February, and they're down 2 points, or they need to tie the game and there's seconds left on the clock, I don't know if there's anybody else I'd rather see kick that football than Harrison Butker. I'm giving him that credit. When they had to make that big field goal in the Super Bowl, I knew it was going in. I knew Butker was going to nail it. When the Chiefs had the famous 13 seconds against the Bills, I didn't even doubt it. You know, some people have to look away or close their eyes or do the finger thing or pray to God or whatever. I didn't. I just sat there. I was like, Chiefs are tying this game. Harrison Butker's tying this game. Never doubted him. I honestly never doubt him when it comes to field goals. I am nervous as hell when it comes to PATs. That should not be the case. It should be the other way around. And it's not. I'm very much nervous whenever he takes a PAT. He's missed a lot of them, that's why. But I do expect he's going to have a bigger year. I do expect him to be one of the best field goal kickers, if not the best field goal kicker in the league this year, because the guy, he's very good at what he does. We got to give him credit here, and that's coming from somebody that's been very critical of Harrison Butker. Get a little sip here real quick. And keep the comments coming, guys. We'll definitely keep this rolling if you guys want to keep talking, because you guys know me, man. I love discussing and conversing with you guys. John Harrison, the tackle comment wasn't mine. I think Snead is more valuable in Spags' D than he would be on another team. He's not a true outside corner. He's a Swiss Army knife player. I don't know if he'll get as big of a deal, big offers like some people think. That's a fair point, John. I don't know. We talked about this last week as well on the show. Trevor and I did. I don't know if that 15 to 20 million a year is out there for a L'Jarius Sneed, because also the league as a whole isn't paying corners like they once did. They're still getting money though, because like I said, I asked Trevor, who would you rather have on your team, Shavarius Ward or L'Jarius Sneed? He said Sneed, obviously, better player. And to John's point, he has more to his game. But Shavarius Ward still got over $40 million in a contract. And I think the L'Jarius Sneed could very well get something like that. I do agree that he fits the Spags mold better than some other defenses, but let's not make the mistake in thinking that he couldn't be just as effective on 3 to 5 other teams right now. I definitely think L'Jarius Sneed is a guy that can play a very vital role on a defense in this league on several different defenses. I fully expect that. I fully would anticipate that. Whether he gets $15 million a year, I still could see him getting 10 to 12, 10 to 13 million a year, like our guy L'Jarius Sneed did. Very much think so. Even if he's not a traditional corner like a Shavarius Ward is, I definitely think that because of the fact that honestly might play in his favor, there's more to his game and you can do more with him. Those defenses and those teams, quite frankly, could convince themselves to spend that kind of money on him. And especially as these caps continue to rise and teams can afford, and if they don't have a Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, they may have no choice but to go and spend money on a 27-year-old L'Jarius Sneed. Julia Gulia, uncomfortable question. How long do we have Kelsey for? And when do we start looking for a replacement, or is Grace showing he's up for the job? Okay, so this is an uncomfortable conversation. I'm glad Julia is bringing it up because it's something we all don't like talking about. It's the mortality. Nobody likes to talk about death. Nobody likes to talk about the end of things that we love. They always say all good things come to an end. Yeah, but a lot of us try to ignore that and pretend like that isn't the truth. Everything's going to end one day, including Travis Kelce's career. It's very much sad to think about. Do I think it's close? No. I don't think that. I think that we're at least 3 or 4 years away from that being the discussion, but it is coming. And as we know of anything, these last 5 years of the Chiefs have absolutely flown by. I think about that all the time. Like, dude, Patrick Mahomes is going into year 6 as the starter and year 7 in his NFL career. Think about that, guys. Like, it feels like it just started just a couple of years ago, and we're already going into year 6 of the Mahomes era. That's so wild to think about, man. So it is flying by. So these next 2 to 3 years could very much fly by when it comes to Travis Kelce's career. And how long do I think the Chiefs have him for? They have him under contract for another 3 years. So I definitely think he'll play out his contract. After 2025, though, man, it's going to be really interesting because I think he'll be turning 37 at that point. Or he'll be, because his birthday's during the season. It's in October. So, 37, 38 years old will probably be the time when Travis Kelce probably calls it a career. Because, quite frankly, Travis Kelce doesn't need football for very much longer. He may not need it anymore after this next season. He's obviously dedicated and wants to continue to play football, guys. But, I mean, let's be real. Travis Kelce's got a big career waiting for him after football. This man's got another 40, 50 years of life left. And he's got TV, movies, commercials, maybe even become a booth analyst on Fox or CBS or one of these other networks who are going to be chomping at the bit to grab him because of his personality and his ability just to entertain folks. Travis Kelce's got a lot of opportunities outside of playing football. So maybe at 36, 37 years old, he's like, look, man, I've won 2, 3, 4 championships. I have all these records at tight end. Me and Jerry Rice own all the postseason records. Maybe it's time for me to go. Who's to say? Maybe Patrick Mahomes convinces him to play a little longer, but I think that's what we're looking at right now. When it comes to replacement, though, I think because of the fact that one player is so individually great that we just assume that you're going to just find that next one, that's not usually how it goes. The Chiefs have been so lucky, a lot like the Packers, where you literally had Brett Favre and it goes right to Aaron Rodgers. Like, that does not happen. That is such a rare occurrence to where you have one Hall of Fame quarterback and then he's succeeded by another Hall of Fame quarterback who also happened to be better. That's what happened here in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, or rather Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce. Now, there was a few years in between the exit, but Tony Gonzalez was the greatest tight end of all time. And then leaves, plays pretty well for the Falcons for a few years, and then Travis Kelce comes about and ends up becoming even better. That doesn't happen. I'm not anticipating that the Chiefs are going to just go find that next great tight end. So guys like Noah Gray, a collection of guys will probably be what replace him. Noah Gray, I think, is 24, 25 now. So he'd be entering his prime, 27, 28 if, let's say, Travis Kelce retires in 3 years. So maybe Noah Gray could be a guy that the Chiefs keep around. But I would assume that if there was going to be a guy that the Chiefs consider like that tight end one, he's not on this roster yet, because although I like Noah Gray, I don't think he's a guy that you consider tight end one moving forward. Maybe I'll be wrong, though. All right, Facebook user John Harrison. Okay, I do like Noah Gray. I'm not saying he's not Kelce. He's the next Kelce, but I think his stats will improve from the 28th. 28 from the 28 for 299 last year. You might be right. Patrick Mahomes is known to spread the ball around. I mean, obviously Noah Gray getting those numbers in itself is pretty wild when you consider the fact he's probably the 6th, 7th, 8th option in this offense. That's even before DeAndre Hopkins would be added to it. So maybe his numbers don't get added, or maybe his numbers don't get better than that. But I think if he keeps his numbers around that area, that's successful for a tight end 2 or 3. Receiving option 7. I think right now, let's say the Chiefs get DeAndre Hopkins, you're looking at Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, MVS. Those guys right there, without question, are getting more opportunities than Noah Gray in the offense. So at best, he's getting the 6th. He's the 6th option. And although Patrick Mahomes loves to spread the ball, I think he threw a touchdown to 12, 13 different receivers last year, which is the most in the NFL. I don't think that Noah Gray is going to be a guy, at least in the foreseeable future, that's going to get 600-700 yards and 5+ touchdowns. I just don't think that's in his reality when it comes to playing for the Chiefs. Now, if he goes to another team, they're not as good, they're a 5-6 win team. Yeah, I think Noah Gray can go out there and get himself 600-700 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think he's good enough to do that, just not in this offense because he doesn't have the opportunities. Trish asks, what do you think of Deneric Prince, the undrafted running back? Do you think he makes the team? Yes, I do, Trish. I do think he makes this team. And the biggest reason why is because we've seen Andy Reid be notorious for having undrafted or unpredictable running backs make this team and end up playing at a decent level. For instance, 7th-round rookie running back by the name of Isaiah Pacheco. What is he now? Oh, that's right. He's the running back 1 over a guy that Chiefs drafted in the first round just 3-4 years ago in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Chiefs also have a Jerick McKinnon, journeyman running back, 31-year-old guy who's also a pivotal part of their offense out of the backfield. So these are the kinds of guys that Andy Reid loves to utilize in his offense. Unpredictable but insanely talented guys that come into this league and light the world on fire. I mean, hell, even Kareem Hunt, a guy I love very much, was a guy that got in the 3rd round. Spencer Ware, I think, was a 6th-round pick. These were guys that had success in the NFL level with the Chiefs and under Andy Reid. Jamal Charles, one of the best, most skilled running backs we've ever seen, was a 3rd-round pick. So, yeah, I do expect Deneric Prince to make some noise this year because I don't expect that Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to stay healthy all year, which means he's going to probably get opportunities with them. And Jerick McKinnon being a guy that, usually the Chiefs like to throw the ball to, he's not going to get a ton of rushes up the middle. And Isaiah Pacheco being such a violent runner, I think that the Chiefs, like I said on the show, I believe it was just last week or a couple weeks ago, I anticipate the Chiefs are going to really work Isaiah Pacheco gradually as the season goes on because they know that they got to have him in the postseason. I think that he's going to be a guy that you see not get, a ton of usage early in the year, in the middle of the year. I think you're going to see him kind of, work his way into the season. And because he's also had 2 injuries he's been dealing with this offseason as well. So they need to be a little more careful with Isaiah Pacheco. I think he'll be a guy that they obviously play later in the year as the time goes on. So that means that guys like Deneric Prince is going to get an opportunity, guys. And just don't be shocked. That's all I'll say. Just don't be shocked if and when Deneric Prince ends up becoming a difference maker in this offense. I'm not saying he'll be running back 1. I'm not even saying he'll be running back 2. I think those 2 positions are filled right now very comfortably because the Chiefs trust Isaiah Pacheco. They trust Jerick McKinnon. But the whole Clyde Edwards-Helaire situation, that's going to be interesting because, like I said, Clyde has a lot riding on this season as well. He needs to get an opportunity because the Chiefs didn't pick up his 5th-year option, which means he'll be a free agent after this season. Can maybe try to get himself on another roster if he plays well this year. But if he gets injured again, that's going to open up the door for Deneric Prince at running back 3. And I do think he'll play a role. So that's all the questions we have right now. If you guys have anything else, man, you guys can definitely keep dropping it into the chat. And this has been incredible, man, because you guys have asked a ton of. And what's funny is, man, this is supposed to be the dead time of year. This is supposed to be the dead time of year where we don't have anything to talk about, but here we are, man. We're discussing things. We're having good conversation, man. That's what I want you guys to do, and keep bringing that to us, man, because that's what we're here to do, guys. Every single week, let your friends know, let your family know if they're Chiefs fans, sports fans as a whole, to have them join us every single week on the Spoken Podcast. We would love that. We do a live show every single Saturday, and these videos don't go anywhere, so they can watch it throughout the week, whenever you guys want to, and you can chime in throughout the week too, guys. That's the best part about it, is it doesn't have to be during the live show. If you guys want to come back later on, throw that out there and throw some questions and concerns out there. We'll get to you guys as much as we can. We do have another question, though, because I want to get to it as well. Julia Gulia asks, George Karlaftis taking a step forward. Yes. I don't want to sound overly optimistic about just every single player, guys, because I promise you I do have unpopular opinions on certain players, and I can get to those if you guys want me to. But George Karlaftis is a guy I'm very much excited about moving forward. He reminds me of more of like a Ryan Kerrigan type of pass rusher, just a bull, a guy that I think is going to have 90-plus sacks in his career. I think he's going to be up there in the top 5 all-time for the Chiefs. When it's all said and done, he's going to pass Justin Houston, guys like that, because he is not only a skilled player, which is obviously half the battle, but he's a guy that stays healthy and has that insane work ethic, man. Those are 25% each, in my opinion, of what makes a great player. Availability, that's almost half the battle, and being a guy that's just a gym rat. And that's what George Karlaftis is. Football is everything to this kid. And I think that with FAU on the other side, with Charles Omenihu, who I think is going to be the unsung hero of this defense this year, with Chris Jones and guys like that, Keandre Coburn, all those guys in the front 7 with those linebackers behind them, I think George Karlaftis has no excuse to not be a double-digit sack guy this year. I definitely think he's going to take a step forward. How big the step is, we'll see. But I definitely think he'll be better. And he was actually really good in his rookie season. He had 7 sacks, or 6.5 sacks. And that's actually pretty good for a rookie pass rusher, especially when he was a late first-round pick. We have John Harrison. Last year, McKinnon was the 3rd leading receiver last year McKinnon was the third leading receiver last year with 56 catches and 9 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case this year. That was a very I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that where a backup running back had more touchdown receptions than the offensive player of the year Justin Jefferson. He had more receiving touchdowns obviously than Tyreek Hill as well. That was a very, very special situation. I think, again, guys, it has a lot to do with the fact the Chiefs had a very thin wide receiver room. Juju Smith-Schuster was their best receiver last year, and they had a bunch of rookie guys. Kadarius Toney, who they traded for, was essentially a rookie. MVS, just a role-playing burner kind of guy. And Sky Moore, he's, a rookie. No one's expecting him to play big moments and put up big numbers in his rookie season in Andy Reid's offense. And Jerick McKinnon stepped up. He made some humongous plays for the Chiefs. It didn't shock me, but it was shocking, if that makes sense. Like, my God, a backup running back had 9 receiving touchdowns. That's something I don't think is going to be replicated. But he did. He played very well last year, third on the team in catches, and just behind Travis Kelce in touchdowns. I don't think that's going to be replicated because I think the Chiefs are going to have a better wide receiver core. Obviously, in my prediction with D-Hop being here and Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore taking a step up. Trish asks, with Creed and Trade coming into a contract year at the same time, will the Chiefs be able to retain both of them? Yes. Yes, they will. There's options, obviously. You can obviously franchise tag one of these players and then sign them later on. And also the fact that Trey Smith plays guard, I don't know how much money he's going to really demand. Joe Tooney's contract was so unprecedented. We have never seen a guard get that kind of money. That's because Joe Tooney is maybe the best left guard in all of football. I mean, from day one, this guy has been elite. Now, Trey Pancake Papa Smith is awesome. I don't know if he's at Joe Tooney's level yet, but he can definitely get paid. Creed Humphrey 100% is going nowhere. I've told you guys, if it came down to Willie Gay, if it came down to Nick Bolton, if it came down to Trey Pancake Papa Smith or Creed Humphrey, I'm taking Creed Humphrey. That relationship that he has with Patrick Mahomes, that camaraderie he has with Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback and center relationship, go ask Jeff Saturday and Peyton Manning. Go ask those guys what that relationship meant to their offense and the fluidity of that historically great offense in Indianapolis all those years. It was everything. So I don't see any scenario where Creed Humphrey isn't here for another 10 years, unless he is injured or he loses the ability or he loses the love for the game, something unforeseen like that. Creed Humphrey, who is arguably the best center in football, is going nowhere, and he's going to get paid every cent he's worth because I think that's what his value here is far surpasses most centers in the league because of the relationship he has with the best quarterback in football. But I do expect that both these guys will be on the team for the foreseeable future. I don't think Trey Smith's going anywhere either because I think the Chiefs know that they're going to have to pay to protect Patrick Mahomes. They can't just expect a revolving door at guard and tackle, and that just continues to work. You got to have unison. You have to have something cemented at the offensive line. You can't treat it like you do at cornerback or safety, where you just have new guys every single year. You have to have the same guys that are still playing at the top of their game. And I think Trey, being 23, 24 now, maybe 25, I'm not mistaken. Creed Humphrey, I think, is 24, 25, just now entering the prime of their careers. I'd be shocked if these guys aren't here on this team in 2026, 2027, because I definitely expect them to be here for many more years. It looks like we don't have any questions right now. Like I said, guys, keep dropping them. Let us know what you guys have in the chat on YouTube. We'd love that. I say that, and now we have a comment from our guy Shaggy Shane. I have got my official Chiefs number 95 Chris Jones jersey that I'm wearing to training camp. Stoked. Can't wait until we get together, bro. I 100% agree with you, Shags. You, me, and Shane always have a great time, bro, whenever we get out there. Fans are awesome. They obviously recognize Shaggy a lot more because the dude's like literally 7'8", big ass beard. I don't know if Shaggy's rocking the beard this year or not. Hopefully he does because I get a little lonely in the beard column if he doesn't rock it because our guy Clay never likes to rock the beard. But yeah, it's always a blast. We're gonna have a ton of fun. I love the fact you're bringing the good vibes with Chris Jones's jersey to the training camp. Hopefully that's good enough to get the contract done by that day. So that'll make things a lot easier for the Chiefs to get some other things done, as we've been talking about ad nauseum for the last few weeks. But yeah, I'm very stoked for training camp as well. It always feels like it flies by, which is actually a good thing because we know that means the summer is ending once training camp is ending. Football season's starting to get here. You start to see the cool, crisp air start to come to the horizon. The the red and yellow trees, man. The girls are rocking those what's called cinnamon or the pumpkin spice lattes. When that all starts to come about, that's when we know that the best time of year is coming around, and that is when the Chiefs take to the field again and try to defend their Super Bowl trophy. So yeah, man, I'm very stoked about it as well, Shaggy, and I appreciate you being on here, bro. Julia Gulli asked another question. Special teams was an issue last year. Do you expect it to be fixed? Julia, you're going to have to really define what fixed means to you. Because I'm going to be honest with you, for the first time, I was okay if the Chiefs decided to part ways with Dave Toub. Biggest reason why is because you're starting to see the attention to detail lacking. Now, I know a lot of young guys are on this team, and you're going to have to work through the growing pains and things of that nature with guys that are out there going after the gunners and guys like that. They're going after guys that are returning the ball and punts and things like that and kicks. But it was at a very frustrating level what Dave Toub was doing, not only just with penalties that were just so goddamn costly, but putting guys, because Andy Reid always talks about it, maybe he's just falling on the sword here, but Dave Toub is basically like an extension to the head coach on this team because he's been with Andy Reid the entire time. But according to Andy Reid, Dave Toub runs completely the special teams and who he puts back there to receive kicks and things of that nature. And when he kept putting Sky Moore back there after he kept muffing punts after punt after punt, and then had a starting running back in Isaiah Pacheco returning kicks, I just wasn't understanding the logic behind some of the decisions Dave Toub was making. So could he fix those things? Yes, I do think, because those are very fixable things, because they're the things that you shouldn't be doing in the first place. So if Dave Toub is half as smart as I expect him and believe him to be, then he should be able to do those things. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and say that the special teams can be fixed. He's just got to be smarter with some of these things. And I say that humbly because I'm not sitting here saying I know special teams better, but I know that Sky Moore is not a punt returner. And I know that Isaiah Pacheco, who is your running back one, should not be returning your kicks. Trish says, thank you, Lance, for the awesome Chiefs discussions. Got to run, but so enjoyed hanging with all the great Chiefs fans and Lance. As always, go Chiefs. Trish, same to you. Thank you so much for being here. It means the world to me that you guys wanted to sit here and talk with me guys about it. I mean, we're in the dog days for sure. We don't really have a lot of content to discuss, but we're getting these rounds in now. We're getting these practice rounds in now. So when we are in the meat of the season, we're going to be having these discussions. We're going to have that camaraderie. We're going to know each other at a better level. And I very much appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here, Trish. I hope you have an awesome Saturday. And I'm sure everybody else echoes my sentiments here when they say they appreciate you being here as well. And if you guys see me at training camp, I'm a very people-friendly kind of person. I'm a people person. If you guys are out there at training camp, the first Saturday of training camp, come and say what's up to Shaggy and Clay and myself. We'll be up there probably up on the hill by the media area because that's where we like to get a really good observation of what's going on in training camp. So if you're up there, guys, let us know. Hey, come say what's up. Come shake our hand. Come hang out. That's what we do it for. We love you guys. We love talking with you guys. That's why we do what we do. Shaggy Shane's got a great show. Clay obviously has the best content, in my opinion, when it comes to Chiefs related content because he makes the best videos in the world at Red Tribe Cinema, and he produces this show. So, just saying, kind of kicks ass around here. Jack of all trades helping me out run this thing, man. And it's been fun running this show just with you guys. I love having Trev on the show because he gives great insight and things of that nature. But this has been very intimate, as my guy James T. Kirk said on YouTube just a few minutes ago. But if we don't have any other questions, guys, I want to get to our final segment of the day before we wrap up the show. And it is called Hold This L. Each and every week, we finish up each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, who is ever holding the L's in the world of sports, deserve those L's in the world of sports. And my L goes to none other than the most deserving recipient of an L, and that is one Skip Bayless. Now, I know that sounds so cliche. It's so easy to bash on him for his takes and things of that nature, but this is actually going to be a different one. Because according to NBC Sports, we now know that Shannon Sharpe is out as the co-host of FS1 Undisputed. But who's next? Who's supposed to replace Shannon Sharpe? Literally no one knows. According to Mike McCarthy of FrontOfficeSports.com, Undisputed will be on hiatus until August 28th due to the struggles to find a replacement for Sharpe. Part of the problem is that Sharp, a Hall of Fame tight end, is left quickly. Part of the problem, reportedly, is that many may not want to work with Skip Bayless, who calls the shots for the debate show. As one unnamed source explained to McCarthy, the shutdown of the show will leave Bayless beside himself. Quote, Shannon's exit moved way faster than they expected, one source said. Quote, they said they had no choice but to go on hiatus. Skip has never done anything like this all his years of at FS1 or ESPN. Not being on the air during these NBA moves is killing him, end quote. Bayless also won't be on air for NFL training camp and preseason, at which time he would surely be pretending to piss and moan about the Cowboys. He'll return once the preseason is ended and as teams prepare to trim the rosters from 90 to 53. That's one undisputed thing about this development. It's far from ideal for FS1 or for Bayless. Do you guys realize how big of a deal that is? While ESPN is cutting and laying off all these people, FS1 is supposed to be in this sweet spot where they're kind of like not taking over, but they're really just catching some W's here. First things first with my guy Nick Wright, who, by the way, man, I paid homage to him yesterday on Twitter. 7 years strong with FS1 now, getting his opportunities the way he's been doing, man. Nothing short of amazing to have a KC native being one of us here, being on at the national level is nothing short of amazing. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. But FS1 is supposed to be raking in these W's around guys like Nick Wright and Chris Broussard and Kevin Wildes and things like that. And Skip Bayless being the legend of all legends at FS1, they can't seem to find one single participant that'd be willing to go on that show with him. Man, that says a lot about what kind of person this guy is. That Shannon Sharp, a legendary guy in the Hall of Fame rankings of the NFL, to leave so abruptly, even though he did a really good thing and he's such a professional. He sat there and he shook Skip's hand and said, "I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you," and he got emotional things. I'm sure he believes all that and means all that. But let's be honest. There's a reason why Shannon got a buyout from FS1. He couldn't take it anymore. And this last football season alone proves that when, Skip was outwardly and openly disrespecting Shannon to his face by saying that you're jealous of Tom Brady, even though Shannon's in the freaking Hall of Fame that Tom Brady's not even in yet, saying that he's just better than you. You had to retire at 35. He's still playing at 45. And just disrespectful things like that, like put your glasses back on, when Shannon was so mad he had to take his glasses off to get his point across to dumbass Skip Bayless. And then, when the DeMar Hamlin thing happened and Shannon outwardly just protested the show for a day and made Skip answer all the questions and deal with all the noise on his own, face the music on his own, that to me told me that was the end. That's when I knew this show was coming to an abrupt end. And what do you know? As soon as the NBA Finals were over, so was Shannon's time on Undisputed. And quite frankly, I don't think Shannon Sharp needs that show. He may have needed it 7 years ago when he first started because he wasn't an unknown, but at CBS he was very robotic. He didn't really have his personality out. The show did help him get to that point, but he's outgrown Skip. He's outgrown Undisputed, and I'm really excited to see what he does. I know he's already got Club Shay Shay, awesome podcast, highly recommend it. But he's got other things on the horizon for himself that I'm very much excited to see. That he does not need him. He needs to be more of an individual. I think he doesn't need to ride the coattails of another like Stephen A. Smith or anybody like that. He needs to be his own guy. And now Skip is out here looking for some direction for himself, and at 71 years old. It looks like FS1 is really struggling to piece together the show that was supposed to keep them together as a network, that was supposed to help them grow. And it's just really sad to see that a guy like Skip has really out-trolled himself. And for that, our guy Skip Bayless, do me a solid and hold this L. All right. It's been a fun show. Been a really, really fun show. And I would be remiss if I told you guys to comment on here, and I did not answer as many comments or questions as I possibly could. And I know the show's supposed to be done, but I see that we had one more comment on here, and I will get to this one more. But keep them rolling, guys. We will answer them as much as we possibly can off air. But our guy Scott Rowland, appreciate you jumping on, Scott. We really do appreciate it, man. On our YouTube side, he says, what kind of contract would you expect Hopkins to sign? 1 or 2 year, I'm down. Not sure anything else other than that. Thoughts? Okay. Scott, I'm 100% on this with you, bro. I think initially I said a 1 year, $5 to $10 million deal. Let him reset his market in 2024. But from the sounds of it, it does sound like D-Hop wants some assurances, and that means that he wants years attached to this. So I do think at this current time, it's going to have to be a 2-year deal. And I think that if I was constructing it right now, the way I would construct this deal is I would guarantee the first year. I would give D-Hop anywhere from $10 to $12 million this year. And I would guarantee his dollars on the first year. The second year, it looks like $8 to $10 million in total. But there's no guaranteed dollars, so the Chiefs need to get out of that deal. They can cut bait, and he can go and experience whatever he needs to experience in the market. He doesn't want to come back, that's fine. So I'd give him a 2-year, $20 million deal, and I think that's what more realistically what it's going to look like, and about 10 to 12 of that's going to be guaranteed. The Chiefs can and will afford that once they get this Chris Jones deal done. And like I've told you guys before, they can move Joe Tooney, Travis Kelce, and Patrick Mahomes' money around, where they can open up over $30 million in cap space if they really wanted to do that. I don't think they're going to do that because they don't need to do that. What they do need to do is get Chris Jones' deal done for a lot of reasons, and one of those reasons is to get D-Hop's contract in place. And I think it will be a multi-year deal because I think that's what D-Hop wants. And I think he would want to play here ideally for 2 seasons and then see what he can get out there at 33 years old in the market if the market's still there for him. But more importantly, I think if you see him get a 2-year deal in Kansas City, then he was telling the truth that winning is more important to him. Because if winning wasn't more important to him and money was more important to him, first of all, he'd sign with the Patriots or Titans. But even if he was to pay or to go to the Chiefs, it would be a 1-year deal so he can maximize his opportunities in the 2024 market, which I thought initially was the idea. But it does sound like he wants a multi-year deal, which means that he wants to win and win a lot. And I think that's going to be here in Kansas City. So I hope that answers your question, Scott. We do appreciate you chiming in, man. Continue to do so. Everybody, continue to do so, man, because we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. And for all the support and all the people that have been rallying around us, man, we definitely appreciate you guys. Couldn't do it without you. Wouldn't do it without you. And this solo show, this solo act's been fun because you know what? At the end of the day, I didn't do it by myself. You guys are with me, and I cannot thank you guys enough for filling these last 2 hours of time with us to give us content to talk about. Cannot thank you guys enough. So for that, for Trevor Twidwell, who's on the outskirts of things today, for Clay Windler that puts all this together on the back end, and for all of you, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 224 of the Spoken Podcast is done, finished, and finito. And so we're back here in 1 week's time for episode 225. We out of this bitch.